Hey everyone, it's Lauren, the medical educator here at the DIS Foundation, where our primary mission is to empower people to save lives. And today we're going to talk about how to use an AED on adults. So to begin, I'm going to start off with what AED actually is. So AED stands for an automated external defibrillator, and basically it analyzes heart rhythm to see if it's a shockable rhythm. If the rhythm is shockable, it will advise a shock, and then it will prompt the rescuer to continue performing CPR if it does not suggest a shock. But if it is shockable, then it will actually prompt you to shock and will charge and everything. They're super easy to use. Most places, almost all public places, should have them. And it should be used early on during resuscitation attempt because it greatly improves the victim's chance of survival. So we just want to show you how easy it is to use an AED. So to begin, to use an AED, start by turning on the device, and then you want to expose the chest of the victim and then apply the adult-sized pads onto the victim. You do so by just peeling the backing off, and then place the pads on the chest, following the diagrams on the pad. One goes right below the right collarbone, and then the other one goes to the side of the left nipple, like kind of right below the armpit. Then you want to connect the pad's cables to the AED device, and then the AED will begin assessing the victim's heart rhythm. So at this point, you want to make sure no one's touching the victim. Say out loud, clear, and you want to make sure no one's touching because you don't want the AED to falsely read something. And then it will either advise a shock or say no shock's advised. It will say it out loud. If a shock is advised, you want to clear the victim again, and it will charge. And then once it's charged, it will say shock ready or indicate that it's ready, and then you just hit the shock button and a shock will be delivered. And then it will prompt you again to resume CPR, which you want to resume chest compressions right away. Again, before delivering the shock, you do want to really make sure no one's touching the victim because you don't want them to get shocked either. And then after about 5 cycles of CPR, the rhythm will be reanalyzed. And if the AED says check electrodes or check pads or something, just make sure the pads are connected well and make sure the pads is attached to the actual AED. Some situations do require extra steps. These are special circumstances. So victims with hairy chests, sometimes if it's too hairy, the AED pads will be unable to stick to the victim's chest. And so this might be why the AED check or says prompts you to check electrodes. And so you may need to shave the victim's chest prior to application of these pads. If there's a second set of adult pads, you may rip off the first set to remove hair and then just reapply the second. Otherwise, you can shave the chest if there's a razor available. If not, just do your best to make the pads stick. And if you can't get them to stick, then just resume CPR. For victims in the water, they need to be pulled out of the water before you can use them. And then you also want to wipe the chest before applying the pads because you don't want the chest to be wet. But it's safe to use the AED on a victim that's lying in a puddle or on the snow, as long as the puddle's small. Let me verify on that. And then also you want to make sure the chest is dry in that time. For victims with implanted defibrillators and pacemakers, you don't want to put the pads over that. It'll be like a little bump in their upper chest or abdomen. Yeah, so you don't want to put the pads over it if you're able to avoid it because you don't want to mess with that device. And then if they do have a medication patch, you may remove the patch and then just wipe the area down and apply the pads. So here's a video I'm going to show you that goes over using an AED. Okay, so yeah, turn it on, see the on and off button, hit it. Then you want to apply the pads. And you can see the location of where you want to apply the pads, and you can see that on the pad it actually shows you where to apply it. Then you want to plug it into the AED device, see how the yellow thing is plugged in, the connector. Then it will say assessing rhythm, so you want to clear the victim and ensure that no one's touching the victim. And then it said shocks advised, so then it charged and now is advising you to shock. So once it does that, hit the shock button and then resume CPR immediately. So don't forget, we offer online CPR certification on our site. You can find a link in the description, and we encourage you to become certified as soon as possible because it's important to know CPR. You can save lives. So thank you for tuning in, and catch up with us in 2 weeks on our next webinar. So thanks, guys.